Hello friends, for today's video we're going to be going through a list of some anticipated fantasy releases for the month of January. Before I jump into those, I am doing a giveaway. All you have to do to enter if you're interested is let me know of the anticipated releases I talk about, which one sounds the most interesting to you, and then also if you want a chance to win this, you just have to write the will of the many so I can distinguish between people who want to enter the giveaway and people who do not. So again, to repeat, you just have to say what book you are most interested in of the anticipated releases, and then also the will of the many. And the reason you're supposed to say the will of the many is because I'm going to be giving away an edition of the will of the many. I was very kindly sent this by the publisher, and they emailed me and asked if they could send me a complimentary copy, and I thought that was really nice. I don't have a copy of this book, but I also know there are so many people that loved The Will of the Many, and I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it the same way I know a lot of you did. And I was like, I would rather that somebody who really loved it gets this new edition that they have made. So I asked, is it okay if I do a giveaway? And they said, yeah, of course, go for it. So that's what we're doing. And if you need a reminder of any details about the giveaway, I'll have it in the description bar. But thank you so much to the publisher for providing this so that one of you can win a copy. It has these very kind of almost old looking pages, which is pretty fun. This is the front. It's the newly designed cover. There's the spine. There's the back. And then if you take off the sleeve, you have this design on the naked hardback. Getting to the anticipated releases now, I have my computer in front of me, so I will be looking down, and occasionally I might have a glare on my glasses or something, so if I do, I apologize. But I'm going to go in order of release date. I will have the information on the screen. These are the projected release dates at the time that I'm recording this. If any of that changes, I will have the changes in the description bar. But kicking it off, we have Breath of the Dragon by Fonda Lee and Shannon Lee. I'm really excited about this one. Its publication date is the very beginning of January, so that's exciting. Hopefully not too long to wait. And I've commented this before, but I am quite amused that NetGalley, which is, I'm sure most of you know, but it's an app you can go to, or website, where you can request arcs, but you can also just kind of be kept in the loop about things that are going to be coming out. And I do like that in their descriptions, they've started adding things like coming in this beautiful edition, and that's what they did here. It says featuring beautiful sprayed edges. That's all you gotta know. It's definitely the first thing you should know, is that it's going to have sprayed edges. Anyway, the synopsis for this one says, a young warrior dreams of proving his worth in the elite Guardian tournament, fighting not only for himself, but the fate of everything he loves. 16-year-old June dreams of proving his worth as a warrior in the Elite Guardians tournament, held every 6 years to entrust the magical scroll of heaven to a new protector. Eager to prove his skills, June hopes that a win will restore his father's pride, righting a horrible mistake that caused their banishment from his home, mother, and twin brother. But June's father strictly forbids him from participating. He believes there is no future in June honing his skills as a warrior, especially considering June is not breath-marked, born with a patch of dragon scales, and blessed with special abilities like his twin. Determined to be the next guardian, June stows away in the wagon of Chong and his daughter, Ren, performs on their way to the capital where the tournament will take place. As June competes, he quickly realizes he may be fighting for not just a better life, but the fate of the country itself and the very survival of everyone he cares about. I think that sounds really great. I am a little picky when it comes to tournament type of fantasy stories, because oftentimes, in order for the plot to continue, whatever current trial or fight that is occurring within the tournament, the character has to win, which then can sometimes pull away the stakes because you feel like you know what's going to happen, but that does provide a lot of opportunities for authors to sort of take your expectations and do something really unique and fun with them. Next up, we have the book Immortal. This is by the author who wrote Daughter of the Moon Goddess. And the description for this one says, the young heir to a mortal crown, Liane ascends a precarious throne when her grandfather dies, vowing to end her kingdom's obligation to the immortals and take vengeance against those she feels responsible for his death. When she is summoned to the immortal realm, she seizes the opportunity to learn their secrets and to form a tenuous alliance to safeguard her people, all with the one she should fear and mistrust the most, the ruthless god of war. As they are drawn together, a treacherous attraction ignites between them, one she has to resist to not endanger all she is fighting for. But with dark forces closing in around them and her kingdom plunged into peril, Liane must risk everything to save her people from an unspeakable fate, even if it means forging a dangerous bond with the immortal even if it means losing her heart. So yeah, I'm definitely thinking there's some fantasy and some romance within that one. The cover art is beautiful. That author gets some very gorgeous cover art. The design is incredible. The color use is so interesting. And I feel like the way that I'm sure it's one of those stories, it looks like the cover is going to have even more meaning once you read the book, because it looks like there's a lot of little details tied into it. Not that that has anything to do with the description, but regardless, it sounds very good. Next up, we have A Sea of Unspoken Things. This isn't necessarily an anticipated release for myself, but I know a lot of you really like this author's works, and so I wanted to make sure I included it. A Sea of Unspoken Things is by Adrienne Young, and the description for this one says, James and Johnny Golden were once inseparable. For as long as she can remember, James shared an almost supernatural connection with her twin brother, Johnny, that went beyond intuition. She could feel what he was feeling. So when Johnny is killed in a tragic accident, James knows, before her phone even rings, that her brother is gone and that she's alone, truly alone, for the first time in her life. When James arrives in the secluded town of Six Rivers, California, to settle her brother's affairs, she's forced to revisit the ominous events of their shared past and finally face Micah, the only other person who knows their secrets and the only man she has ever loved. But as James delves deeper into Johnny's world, she realizes that their unique connection hasn't completely vanished. The more she immerses herself in his life, the more questions she has about the brother she thought she knew. Johnny was hiding something, and he's not the only one. The deeper she digs, the more she is compelled to unravel the truth behind the days leading up to Johnny's death. Ultimately, James must decide which truths should come to light and which are better left buried forever. I always think this author's works sound interesting, and they sound like such a great blend of so many different things. Like, there's contemporary elements, there's speculative elements, there's often almost like a mystery element to them. And thus far, I haven't found one that's really worked for me, but maybe this will be the one. So maybe I will give it a go. Next up, another one that I'm like, I don't know if this is so much for me, but I figured I'd give all of you the heads up that Grady Hendrix has another work coming out. And the synopsis, it says, a brand new horror novel from the New York Times bestselling author of How to Sell a Haunted House and the Final Girl Support Group. Set in Florida in 1970, Grady Hendrix's newest novel follows a group of young women in a home for unwed mothers who find a guide to witchcraft, which sounds entertaining. And the fact that the cover has one of those little, oh, what are they called? The glowy, goopy, oh my gosh, a hot lava lamp? That's what they're called, right? I never had one as a kid. My cousins had them. But I'm like, okay, so this is going to be ridiculous. Again, because I discovered that through How to Sell a Haunted House. That's kind of the general vibe, I believe, of a lot of Grady Hendrix's works. But I still have very mixed feelings about How to Sell a Haunted House, so I'd be curious to pick up something else. Don't know if it should be this one or other ones, but for any of you that have picked up a lot of Grady Hendrix's works, which would you point to as being, like, in your opinion, the best one or the most accessible? Anyway, moving on. Next up, we have the book Lightfall, which is book one of a series. It is a vampire story. It says vampires, werewolves, and sorcerers. But it also says it's a debut epic fantasy. And I'm like, I do like epic fantasy. And I feel like we don't get as much epic fantasy these days. So I'm like, okay. And then it says for fans of J. Kristoff's Empire of the Vampire. Not surprising, because I feel like comp titles are often just like, what's a new popular thing that also has the same character archetype or trope in it? So maybe it's really similar. I don't know. Or maybe it's just because it's vampires. But what really took me by surprise was it says for fans of J. Kristoff's Empire of the Vampire and Richard Swann's The Justice of Kings. And I'm like, I don't think those are that alike. And I'm kind of curious what that mix would look like, because one of them is kind of edgy. And I almost feel like that look of like the villain in all black who just like leans on door frames. That's kind of what I mean when I say edgy. And then Richard Swann's The Justice of Kings is not that necessarily, so I don't know what that combination would look like. The synopsis says, for centuries, vampires freely roamed the land until the Greys came out of nowhere, wiping out half the population in a night. The survivors fled to the last vampire city of First Light, where the rules are simple. If you're poor, you drink weak blood. If you're nobility, you get the good stuff, and you can never, ever leave. Palace maid Sam has had enough of these rules, and she's definitely had enough of cleaning the bedpans of the lords who enforce them. When the son of the city's ruler is murdered, and she finds the only clue to his death, she seizes the chance to blackmail her way into a better class class and better blood. She falls in with the leeches, a group of rebel maids who reign in the worst of the lords. Soon she's in league with a sorcerer whose deductive skills make up for his lack of magic, a deadly werewolf assassin, and a countess who knows a city's worth of secrets. There's just one problem. What began as a murder investigation has uncovered a vast conspiracy by the ruling elite, and now Sam must find the truth before she becomes another victim. If she can avoid getting murdered, she might just live forever. It sounds cheeky. And the cover is 100% giving me a little bit Castlevania, Dracula's castle look to it, which I like. I hope I like this one. I'm not opposed to vampires, which have already established themselves, I think, as a returning trend. I'm not opposed to it, but I just don't know that I've picked one up in recent years that has really blown me away. So I'm ready for one, and maybe hopefully that can be one of them. Next up, we have Water Moon. The synopsis for this one says, a woman inherits a pawn shop where you can sell your regrets and then embarks on a magical journey when a charming young physicist wanders into the shop in this dreamlike and enchanting fantasy novel. There's a little bit more if you continue on. It says, on a back street in Tokyo lies a pawn shop. Not everyone can find it. Most will see a cozy ramen restaurant, and only the chosen ones, those who are lost, will find a place to pawn their life choices and deepest regrets. Hana Ishikawa wakes on her first morning as the pawn shop's new owner to find it ransacked, the shop's most precious acquisition stolen, and her father missing. And then into the shop stumbles a charming stranger quite unlike its other customers, for he offers help instead of seeking it. Together, they must journey through a mystical world to find Hana's father and the stolen choice. By way of rain puddles, rides on paper cranes, the bridge between midnight and morning, and a night market in the clouds. But as they get closer to the truth, Hana must reveal a secret of her own and risk making a choice that she will never be able to take back. So I'm not always the biggest fan of magical realism, but this one maybe is an exception for me in that, well, I haven't read it yet, so I can't know if I'll enjoy it. But part of why I'm really intrigued is because so much of that sounds like a Studio Ghibli movie, doesn't it? I think it sounds so much like it. Like, it almost seems like Spirited Away, but the protagonist is an adult. It just seems like it might be a lot of fun and very charming. Enchanting, I think, was a word that was used. Yes, dreamlike and enchanting. And that's exactly what the synopsis sounds like. Speaking of something sounding enchanting, this next one is a middle grade story. I think it sounds really cute. It says, an 11-year-old arborist's apprentice fights to save an ancient grove of magical trees that hold the key to her community's survival. That alone makes me excited. The cover is so adorable, but the rest of the synopsis says, Nick Six-Smith has spent her whole life on the road. The daughter of a traveling arborist, she and her mother move from town to town, caring for the ironwood groves the communities rely upon. When a dangerous blight takes hold of these magical trees, they must journey to the city of Mistwood, her mother's hometown, for answers. Nick can't wait to explore the prosperous city of Mistwood and all it has to the bustling markets and workshops, neighborhoods built upon a roaring waterfall, and the vast ancestral grove of ironwood trees. But dark secrets simmer beneath the surface as people start to disappear and tensions rise in the city. As the mystery grows, Nick and her new friends must follow the trail where it leads underground to a strange, enchanting world called Underhill. Only then, among the roots of ancestral grove, will Nick find a way to save her new home and the ironwood trees. I also am excited about this one because I wish that forests were utilized more often in fantasy settings. The last one for today would be the Outcast Mage. It says, in this glittering debut fantasy, a mage bereft of her powers must find out if she is destined to save the world or destroy it. In the glass city of Amoria, magic is everything, and Nyla, student at the city's legendary academy, is running out of time to prove she can control hers. If she fails, she'll be forced into exile, relegated to a life of persecution with the other magicless hollows, or worse, be consumed by her own power. When a tragic incident further threatens her place at the academy, Nyla is saved by Helios Akana, the most powerful living mage. Finding Nyla a kindred spirit, Helios stakes his position at the academy on teaching her to harness her abilities. But Helios has many enemies, and they would love nothing more than to see Nyla fail. Trapped in the deadly schemes of Amoria's elite, Nyla must dig deep to discover the truth of her powers or watch the city she loves descend into civil war. for there is violence brewing on the wind and greater powers at work, one who could use her powers for good or destroy everything she's ever known. I think that sounds great. So a second ago, I was talking about how I wish there were more forest settings, and then this middle grade book that I was describing seems like it's going to fit that. And then here we have an adult fantasy work that has, it would seem, an academy setting that outside of dark academia, I don't feel like we get very many magical academy settings in at least the new releases these days. So I'm excited at the idea of that. And also there being all this intrigue as well, and it's setting up for a greater plot. I think that sounds like a lot of fun. Also, I did not mean to bring this up while wearing my gamer sweatshirt, but the Elden Ring fan in me is always like, oh, every time I go to the stupid Magic Academies part of the game, I am always like, I just need like a book that talks about the history of this and the different kinds of magic and the fractures and everything. And so I feel a little bit like I'm imposing my love of Elden Ring onto anything that says it has a magical academy setting. But hey, you know what? I still think it sounds good. The Outcast Mage, if I didn't say the title. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we really enjoy that one. That's it for some anticipated releases for the month of January. A reminder, if you're interested in the Will of the Many, let me know of these ones, which one sounds the best, and then don't forget to write the Will of the Many in your comment so I know that you're interested in winning it. Thanks so much for watching, though. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later.